So over the past couple of weeks, I've been sick, like the kind of sick that makes your body hurt in ways you didn't think was possible. Sick. And that's why you haven't seen me online much other than some social media posts and finally a live stream this last Saturday. And while I was down, I did a lot of doom scrolling and ran across a Reddit post that I wish I had screenshot since the post has since been removed. But the post was about a browser game called 100 Jumps. The premise is simple. You hold the spacebar to charge your jump and then release the spacebar to jump, and then try to land on 100 platforms without falling. It's a simple concept, instantly addictive, one of those why is this so hard games that eats away 20 minutes before you even realize the time has gone. And I played it for a while and then wondered how hard it would be to build something like this with AI. So I opened Claude AI and typed, I want to build my own version of this game, and pasted the URL in and waited. What I was hoping for is that Claude would come back and ask me questions and there would be a bit of a conversation, but that's not what happened. What happened was a couple of minutes later, Claude spit out a complete HTML canvas game. Title screen, physics engine, trajectory preview, particle effects, the whole thing. There's one problem though, nothing happened when I clicked. So I told Claude, nothing happens when I run it. And a few seconds later, I had a version that worked. It was a vertical jumping game instead of the horizontal one like the original, but the core mechanic was there. Hold a charge, aim, release to jump, and land on the next platform. That said, it only took me a couple of tries to beat it, and I told Claude exactly that. And this is where things got interesting and honestly a little scary, but we'll come back to that. Instead of just cranking up the difficulty, Claude asked me what I actually wanted in the game. So I picked moving platforms, sound effects, and a mechanic where landing in the perfect center of the platform 4 times in a row earns you an extra life. And a few moments later, I had that exact version running in my browser. A more challenging, more difficult game with a risk-reward system baked in. And remember, I never touched a line of code, but with just a couple of prompts, I had a playable game. And this got me curious about adding things like enemies. So I asked Claude what kind of enemies we could add, and it pitched a handful of ideas. We had patrollers and orbiters, mimics, gravity wells, chasers, and wind ghosts. So I picked the 2 that I liked, orbiters and chasers, and Claude followed up with a series of questions about when they should appear, how aggressive they should be, and whether getting caught should be instant death or just a knockback. So I answered the questions that Claude posed, and a couple of minutes later, I had a working version with both types of enemies. The chasers were a bit aggressive at first, so I had to dial that back, and the orbiters were phasing through the player rather than actually doing anything because the collision hitbox was too small. But both items were fixed in just a second after I flagged them as being issues. Once I was happy with the game, I decided to put it on a domain so I could access it from anywhere. Then I asked Claude to package it into a Docker container, because why not? And it generated a Docker file, an Nginx file, a Docker Compose file, and an entry point script with an environment variable for the site title so that I could change it if I wanted to. So I uploaded the game to my self-hosted Git instance, just so I'd have a copy of it safe somewhere. And then I cloned it to an LXC on my server and did a Docker Compose up-d, and it was live. Initially, there was an issue when trying to run it on the domain, but when I told Claude the things that were being weird, Claude figured out that the page wouldn't load through Cloudflare tunnels because a CSS font import was blocking the render. And the Docker container threw a permissions error on the entry point script because chmod plus x needs to happen inside the Docker file and not on the host. And then Claude spit out a new version of the Docker system to spin up in the LXC. And it worked, and it really was just that easy. The final game has charge to jump physics, 100 procedurally generated platforms, random moving platforms, orbiter enemies, chaser enemies with randomized speeds, a perfect landing streak system for earning extra lives, sound effects, particle effects, and a disclaimer crediting the original game as well as indicating that this game and this code hasn't been properly human reviewed. And the Docker image is about 27 megabytes, and it's running on about 25 megabytes of memory. And what really gets me is the whole thing only took about an hour from I wonder if this would work to being live on the internet. I wrote 0 lines of code, and my entire contribution was describing what I wanted, picking from some options, and reporting bugs. And that's it. And that's where the problem and kind of the scary part is as far as I'm concerned. I'm not a developer, and I wouldn't know where to start with a project like this. Looking through the code, it seems to be relatively human readable, but that could just be me giving myself too much credit. And I think this is going to be coding moving forward. People telling Claude or whatever AI what kind of app they want with no idea about best practices for coding and security, but they'll still make a post on Reddit saying, I coded this new app in a day to solve a problem, and then talk about it like they personally typed all of the code out. Now, look, I understand that AI coding is a great way for real developers to push code out faster, and I'm fine with that. A real developer is going to have a grasp on what best practices are and will know how to prompt the AI to get what they need with the code that they can properly review and trust. Now, I love the idea of a good developer using good tools to create a great product, but I'm honestly terrified that people who aren't developers are going to start, or in this case continue, thinking that they are developers even though they have no code review experience. And further, I'm worried that we'll have more apps that have received no code review being dropped into the self-hosting community. Or worse, let's say somebody slops out an app with some real potential, but because they're not a developer, they won't have the ability to support the app and add or fix issues that get brought up on the GitHub repository for the project. And then the project dies due to a lack of support. And all of this concerns me, and not because I'm against AI, not at all. I use AI all the time. What concerns me is that the community will continue to be oversaturated with apps that will never receive a proper code review or proper support. And I would love to know what you all think in the comment section down below. And if you want to check out the game that Claude built for me, I'll probably have that link down there as well. And look, I know that there will be AI bros in the comments telling me that I'm being overly paranoid and that that's just how it is from now on, so I should just learn to deal with it. And that's fine if you want to leave those comments. Just let me know what you think down there as well. In the meantime, though, I'm going to keep my AI projects local so that I can feel better that the only person that may get hurt from my AI endeavors is me if I make a mistake. So thank you for watching, but before you go, I would like to know if you'd be interested in more content like this, where I try something and just tell you how it went versus reviews and tutorials and that sort of thing. I kind of enjoy doing this, and I would love to know what your thoughts are on this type of content here on the channel. So please let me know about that in the comment section as well. But with all of that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I want to thank you guys for spending a few minutes of your day with me here today, and I'll talk to you in the next video.